All right, so today we're looking at ePortfolios because with the upgrade that came in this last December to Blackboard, we turned on the ePortfolio tool inside of Blackboard. So this gave us an excellent reason and an opportunity to discuss this particular tool. My name is Lacey Cousin, and I am the Director of Academic Affairs in the Southern Indiana region, and one of my things that I oversee is the online area. And I have formerly been an online technology coordinator. I teach online, I teach face-to-face. I've got a 25-year background in teaching, so I thought this was an excellent opportunity to bring to you some of these new opportunities with the ePortfolios in Blackboard. And if you aren't using Blackboard, if your particular program is using a different platform, that's fine too. We are going to show you how to do them in Blackboard, but I also have a lot of resources that if you're using another platform, you might find to be helpful. All right, so let's start with our objectives. I know a lot of folks are looking at the use of electronic portfolios for their professional use. I had several people contact me and ask if I was going to talk about the use of the ePortfolio for faculty advancement, and we'll look at a portfolio that was successfully used for faculty advancement here in the Southern Indiana region just this semester. We're also going to talk about the use of ePortfolios with students and how you can use it for student assessment, but also program assessment. We're going to look at some steps, some recommended steps and planning considerations to effectively use ePortfolios in the classroom. We can also apply some of these steps to the development of our professional portfolios as well. We're going to look at several portfolios that are out there from a variety of colleges and universities. We're going to then I'll demonstrate the development of an ePortfolio in Blackboard. Even though we're going to move kind of quickly through that, by the time this is finished, you'll have access to the recording. This is actually being presented within a portfolio, and I'll share that portfolio out to everyone, and you'll have the ability then to access all of these resources, and you'll also have some step-by-step handouts and short videos on how to recreate portfolios in Blackboard. Additionally, we're going to add those steps to the help button that is in the instructor resources area, and then the help tools for Blackboard that have been put out by the Bloomington campus. It's now embedded in all of our Blackboard shells, which has been a wonderful, wonderful resource for us. And as part of that, I'm going to show you how you can share your portfolio within the institution as well as outside of the institution, and then we're going to look at how we can integrate that portfolio into an assignment within a course. So lots of things on our plate today, so we'll go ahead and get started. And let's look at just the purpose of some portfolios. This particular image came out of the Stony Brook Digication Project, and they were looking at what is a portfolio, what is not a portfolio, and essentially what a portfolio is not is that it is not it's not a blog, it's not social engagement, it's an opportunity to represent yourself, your education, your contributions. It allows us to create a place where we can showcase what we've learned as faculty, our growth as faculty and staff, and also a place for our students to engage in that reflection and growth. As far as faculty are concerned, you may decide to go ahead and build a professional portfolio to help keep track of your professional accomplishments. And one of the nice things about this particular platform is that even though we only engage in faculty advancement every few years, keeping track of all of those artifacts as those years go by can be a daunting task. Where do you save the emails? Where do you load that excellent lesson plan that you want to make sure makes it to your portfolio? Well, we have a solution for that with this particular Blackboard interface, and I'll be sharing that with you. And then also award nominations. For example, the Lambkin Award or the Sample Award. We can build ePortfolios to represent those. And then with students, ePortfolios really give us an excellent opportunity to engage our students, to help them see growth throughout either a particular course or a program of study. Sometimes it's hard. Thank you, Sherry. I will slow down. I'm sorry. With our students, We know that sometimes it is hard for them to see the progression of their growth, especially if they're struggling, and this gives them an opportunity to see how they're doing over a course of time, and then also to engage in some reflection on that process and their progress. It also, if you're in a skills-based program, say like nursing, it is an excellent place to organize the evidence of skill attainment, and then also it can help our students prepare for their capstone. There's a question over here about whether or not this will be on the Blackboard announcement page. I will ask for central office to load that for us. They are the ones that are in control of what goes up on that page, but I'll ask them to do that. One of the things that, as I was going through what other colleges were doing with ePortfolios, I found this really interesting quote from Tunxus Community College, which is a community college up in Connecticut. And they had a really excellent page on student feedback from what they had learned and garnered out of their ePortfolio experience. And this is a quote from one of their students. It says, "This ePortfolio has given me an opportunity to pause and look back at not only my accomplishments at Tunxus, but all of my accomplishments this far in life. It has reinvigorated me to keep working toward my goals and has brought them into sharper focus." And as faculty, I don't know if we can ask for a whole lot more than that to have that kind of an effect on our students. So when you have access to this portfolio here after the presentation, there's a link that will take you out to another page with more of that student feedback and the things that students garnered from this experience. And I think that that's a really important voice to bring into our thought process if we're deciding that we want to use this in our courses. So let's take a look at some portfolio examples. Several colleges have embraced the ePortfolio platform for both individual course assignments as well as program work. And several of them have also participated in consortiums that have done this as well. One of these is LaGuardia, and if we take a look at LaGuardia Community College, we can see that they have excellent resources here with divided up by different programs. And here's an example of a student who has an ePortfolio. He's in the computer and information technology area. I really like the way Fernando here has organized his content because he gives a nice little introduction. Then he tells us about himself. And as he talks about this, he also talks about what his experiences have been. And then he, over here, goes into his goals. And I think that it's really neat to see we've got a student who is at the community college level, but he's looking forward to moving forward, and he wants to get his bachelor's degree. And as he moves forward, he talks in here about eventually getting into security, network security, and then he wants to go to work at the FBI. So this is an opportunity for students to really sit down and think about what are my goals and to spell those out. He'll be able to take this portfolio and take it with him outside of school, and he can even use that as part of his job seeking after graduation. Some other examples, Yale University has some nice examples out there. This gentleman is a composer, and one of the things that I thought was really nice about his portfolio was he has a recording of some of his work right in there, a video of students performing his work. So when we go to build these in Blackboard, I will show you how you can import video right into it so it displays right in the portfolio. There's several other examples here. One of the larger groups of portfolios that I found out there were by Stony Brook University. And when you start to look at theirs, they had a model ePortfolio program that they've been doing where students are involved in having their portfolios reviewed and featured online. And there's several of these here that you can take a look at, give you an idea of what a portfolio would look like in a particular coursework area that you are teaching in. Some others that I found that were really very interesting are down here by specific discipline. Having taught anatomy and physiology, I kind of thought, well, what would be out there in an ePortfolio for an anatomy class? So I ran across Brenda's A&P ePortfolio in my search, and I thought this was really interesting because this gave her an opportunity to not only demonstrate knowledge, but she also shared her journey in trying to survive A&P 2. And she admits that it was very difficult, but that the portfolio helped her bring this information together and helped her understand. She talks in here about how it pulled together the concepts of the human body and how those organ systems and processes work all together and how closely related they are. So this was, again, an opportunity for a student to take something very difficult, bring it down to her own personal understanding, and then also be able to see how things work together. Her particular portfolio, it's quite large, and it is organized by course objectives. And so she had her list of course objectives, and she was able to bring those together, talk about them, and then she brought in resources related to them. She had the video here from YouTube. There's other links that have images that she scanned in. Again, bringing that together, engaging with that material. Along with all of these student examples, I have a couple of faculty examples here. This particular portfolio is from our campus down here in Southern Indiana, and Kim just received notice that she has successfully moved to the next faculty standard. She organized hers by the standards that are on the rubric for advancement. She started with her introduction here, a great picture. She promises me that that's not underwear on that young man's leg up there. But it looks like they're having a good time. She speaks a little bit about herself and then included the rubric. And you'll see the ability to add artifacts to the rubrics, or excuse me, to the portfolios. And I'll show you how you can do that. But when we click on any of these, it's going to open up the ability for us to then open up a document or a PDF file, whatever's been added. And so anything that she's developed, such as her CV, she can load it in and attach it, and then it can be put into any portfolio she develops. Hers is organized by standard, and so we can look in here, and she talks about the standards and how she met those standards. And then down here, she's able to offer evidence by uploading documents to the portfolio that then the selection committee is able to see. It's neat, it's all together in one place, and it's very easy for the committee to navigate. Another way that a portfolio could be organized, very similar. I set this template up for our faculty. I put the standards on the cover and also loaded the rubric at the front. An introduction page can also be added, and then each page with a standard, starting like with the philosophy and methods, the things that would relate to those particular standards. If you are staff and not necessarily faculty, and you want to represent your professional growth, I don't undergo the F3, F4 advancement. I rather need to just be able to demonstrate my professional growth. So this is my portfolio. It's very much in process. So I started with my leadership philosophy, and you can see I don't have my professional goals loaded yet, but I'm working on this. This is very much a work in progress, and I've been adding these different pages to my portfolio as I've pulled them from my CV, and I've looked at what I've been doing here while I'm at Ivy Tech, so that I will have something to show. I can use this when it's time for my evaluation, and I can also use this when I'm looking to advance within the system because I can share it. So lots of examples out there of ePortfolios. And like I said, you'll have access to the site so you can explore these more in depth. Let's take a look at some of the resources that we have here and things that we need to think about when we go to do an ePortfolio. So I pulled together some of the better resources that I found in my research on what do you need to think about and what's been already done in the world of ePortfolios. And several of these links, as you can see, go out to the Stony Brook Digication Project. They did a lot of work in pulling those things together, and I'm not going to go through all of these links. I just wanted you to see what's out there. They talk about what you need to think about before pulling together a portfolio, having clear, measurable objectives, creating rubrics. It must be a requirement. It shouldn't be something that's optional if you want students to really do them. So that was their experience. They have some of their feedback, their reflective practices through the portfolios. They have listed their requirements, which I thought would be really helpful if you're thinking about implementing this. Now, if you've been doing portfolios for a while, then that's something that you probably already have together. But if this is something that's new that you're considering, those resources are there. When it comes to this list, I've saved the best, or probably the richest two items for last. Dr. Helen Barrett's site has about 15 years worth of presentations and publications over the use of electronic portfolios. Her focus is in the K-12 arena, but she has also done some work in higher education. She is a retired professor, and a lot of her resources are there that show over time the growth of the use of portfolios and ePortfolios in higher education, and she's got a lot of great ideas. This last item, however, I've bolded because Catalyst for Learning has been a really wonderful site. This is a page that I really do encourage you to spend some time exploring if this is what you're interested in doing. When you click on these, it will take you out to lots and lots of resources, professionally written, developed for us at the higher education level to think about how we can integrate these and use them to really get authentic feedback on our students' work. From the home page, one of the richest set of examples that I found were these campus practices and campus stories. And this is information that's come out of the various campuses who participated in this particular C2L partnership. So I definitely would recommend that you spend some time exploring that. We could be here for several hours if we were to explore it together. So again, I will make sure you have access to these sites so that you can explore what's appropriate for where your interests lie and the things that you want to work with. Essentially, if you're going to be using portfolios in the classroom, or even if you want to use a portfolio professionally, you really need to know where you're going. And Helen Barrett's quote here, "A portfolio without standards, goals, and/or reflection is just a fancy resume, not an electronic portfolio." So what is the purpose? Why do we want to use an ePortfolio? We don't want to have just another assignment for our students. We want to make sure that it's in alignment with our course objectives and that we have good, clear, measurable objectives and outcomes in mind before we even begin to think about assigning that to our students. Do we want to look at just particular learning objectives, or do we want to see skill competencies? And what are those that we want to see them to demonstrate? How are we going to evaluate them? So if we let the students know ahead of time with a rubric how their portfolio is going to be evaluated, that takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, and it also helps us establish good, clear prompts for those portfolios. Do you want to use your portfolio as a single outcome at the end of the course or at the end of a program? Or are you going to look at that as something that's an iterative process where it starts at the beginning of a program and moves throughout and shows that growth not just in a single course, but across the growth of their program? And then who's going to evaluate these? Are you going to use peer evaluation? Is it going to be faculty evaluated? Is it going to be evaluated by professionals outside of the particular classroom? You know, our visual communications folks, when our students are demonstrating their learning, they bring in outside professionals to help provide that reflective feedback to students. And then, are we going to use these to help improve future classes? And are we going to look at them to help gauge the growth within our program? So for those of you who are more visual, this particular diagram comes out of the Stony Brook project, where it talks about that process of analyzing, designing, implementing, pulling it together, and that it's a constant. As we come up with our student outcomes, then we can revise it and improve it for the future. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a look at building an ePortfolio in Blackboard. And I'm going to walk you through this particular interface. I realize that there are divisions that use TaskStream. Our VisCom group uses Adobe. There's lots of other options out there. Some people do use like WordPress or Weebly. The one thing that I really like about the ePortfolio in Blackboard is that it is FERPA compliant, because it's keeping all of our student work within the ivytech.edu domain, and then it is up to our students whether or not they share that outside of the domain. And we'll look at how to do that as well. So this is the outline that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to go ahead and turn over to the home page of Blackboard. And so when we log into Blackboard, of course, we have our full page of courses. And we need to access the portfolios from the global navigation panel. And so that's that little triangle up beside your name. And you're going to come down to Tools and Portfolios. And again, all of this will be available to you, both in the recording as well as in the handout afterwards. So you can see you can have more than one portfolio. So if a student has been asked to do a portfolio for a particular class, and then the program itself wants to have a portfolio that runs across time, that is possible. You can have multiple portfolios. So we'll start with creating a portfolio, and we'll give it a title. Down at the bottom here, we want to make sure that the portfolio is available, and you can leave comments to be private. In that, the portfolios have the ability to receive comments, and if they're public, then anyone can see the comments that are made, or they can be made to be private. That's entirely up to the creator or the assignment that you design. And we're going to move on. So here is where we can begin building content. You'll notice that there are little pencils in several places. There's some plus signs. We have some trash cans. Over here we have the ability to add content on and see the portfolio from a tree perspective, where we'll be able to see all of the pages and the headers. And then also we'll be able to take a look and build from the inside here. So we've got some comments. Does available mean public, that anyone can see? The nice thing about this is available just means that it's available for the user to then share out. So if they make it unavailable and they've shared it previously, then their share is shut down. But unless they make it available and share it, then it is not available. Let's see. If you make comments private, is it possible to make just one comment public? No. It's either all or nothing. If you want comments private, they are all private, or if you make them public, they are all public. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look here. If you want to add a header to your portfolio, so let's look at the difference here. This portfolio that I'm using to demonstrate with does not have a header. My personal portfolio does. This part up here, our chief want is someone who will inspire us to be what we knew we could be. That shows up on every one of my pages. That's a header. So it is optional. It doesn't have to be there, but you can put it there if you want. So just to mark that it is there so we know, I'm going to type in header and save that. So we have that. On page 1, we're going to call this our title page. And all you do is click. You don't have to do anything other than click to be able to add items. So here's my title page, and you'll notice that these 3 lines of tools are just like any other area of Blackboard. They all function the same way, so we can add an image. And I'm going to bring in an image off of my thumb drive here. And then under Appearance, you can change the size of an image. If you load a picture up into Blackboard and you click over on Appearance and you see that it's 2,000 pixels wide, that's going to be really huge. So I like to keep mine somewhere between 250 to 700. So I can change the size of it. Let's try and make this one 600. And when I do that, you'll notice that the height automatically changes, and I can go ahead and insert it. And then I can save that item, and I also need to save the title page. So if there's a save button, you need to click save. When I'm finished, I can click Done Editing, and that will send me right back to my home page. So now we can take a look at it. And here I have the title page with our image. So let's go back and, oops, I showed the wrong one. Sorry about that. So there's our title page and image. So let's go back and edit this some more. And we're going to make a new page. So I can make a new page by clicking Add Page. And you notice by hovering over that, we call it hover to discover. If I hold my mouse over something because I'm not quite sure what it'll do, it'll tell me. And in this case, it said Add Page. So now I'm going to call this one External Link. And I can save that and come down into the editing box. And we can do IB Tech. So if we highlight that and use that link tool, we can add in I like to choose Open in a New Window and then insert it. When we save that, then this becomes a link to go outside of out to the ibtech.edu webpage. All right, let's add another one, and I'll show you how to add video. There's 2 different ways to add video into Blackboard. So the first one that we're going to do, we call the mashup tool. And in Blackboard, we have this button right here for mashups. It has a little down arrow, and we can choose several. And I'm going to try a YouTube video. And then it's going to give me a page, a pop-up page, where I can do a search term, and I'm going to say IB Tech Community College. And we're going to add the Logansport Campus Virtual Tool. I can preview them throughout here to see which one I want, or I can select it. And then go ahead and show the YouTube URL just in case a student has problems with that link. This way they can copy and paste it into another page, and then we'll submit. And when we save that, you'll see that now we have the ability to click to watch the video. That's using the mashup tool. One thing I've found with that tool, though, is not everything will show up for me with the mashup tool. So sometimes I have to actually embed that myself. So we're going to do an embedded video. We can always add a link, but I like to have my videos embedded so that they show up for students. So I have decided that I am going to use this video by the college on your path to a great career. And if I come down below the title, there is a share button. And when I click that, this is the URL to share this video. But if I want to embed it, I can click that, and I'm going to get some HTML here. I want to copy that. You can use the Control-C on your keyboard to do that. And we're going to go back. And now I said that was some HTML. Well, there's an HTML button in our editor that allows us to add that code to Blackboard. So now I just paste all that right in there. I tell it to update and save. And now that video is embedded. I can say done editing. And we can go out and look at that portfolio. There is our external link that opens up the school's website. And now we have two kinds of video samples in there. So if the mashup tool doesn't bring up the video you want, you can directly embed into Blackboard. All right, let's go back and take a look and do how do we add artifacts. So we're going to make another page for artifacts. And adding artifacts can be done right from our editing tools. So the one thing that we don't have in the rest of Blackboard, we have our 3 lines of tools. Those are there. But right above this is Add Artifact. So when we click that, that allows us to either add artifacts that we've already added to the artifact area, and I'll show you that in just a few minutes, or we can add a personal artifact. And we can do that by browsing the computer. And I'm going to put in my handout on how to copy an exam from one course to another. Now, it's right there, just like any other item. If we were to add an item to Blackboard, same kind of thing. I forgot my title. Now I submit, and you'll see that that item is right up here. We can remove it by clicking the X. We can write a description about it. And then we can save it. When we go out to view this particular item, we'll be able to then see it and click on it to open it. There's another way to add artifacts. So if you are pulling this together for a professional portfolio and maybe you get a great email from a student, you can make a copy of that email and save it into artifacts without having to build it into your portfolio. If we come up here to our My Portfolios area, there's a button here on the left called My Artifacts. And if you click there, you can add artifacts directly to this area. And as you do that, again, you want to give them a title and browse the computer. And let's add the newsletter here. So I've added a PDF file. I'm giving it a title. And when I submit it, this just allows me to basically put this in a storage container, a storage drawer, a file drawer, if you like. So it's sitting there. It's not inside any portfolio yet, but it's available for use. I can now go back to my portfolio, and maybe it's 3 months later, and I want to take the time to go ahead and start building out that section of my portfolio. So I'm going to come over here to the left side and bring up my artifacts page, and now I'm saying I want to add this new artifact. I click on that. I click on what it is to select it, and I submit, and now it's there. I say that I'm done editing, and if you don't say that you're done editing, it won't make it. So it won't get saved. And now if I go out to view this portfolio, and I look at my artifacts page, there are my 2 items that I could open up and have available for download. By clicking on this, it's going to open it up for us and we can view it. While we're on this page, I'll show you how to change the backgrounds. Because if you notice, on my portfolio, I've got a nice pretty black background. Kim did as well on hers. This one we had a blue background. So while we're here, at the top left-hand side from viewing is Customize Style. And when we click on that, we have 4 layouts. And those layouts are there to tell us where do you want your links to your different pages. So layout 1 puts it on the left. Layout 2 puts it on the right. Layout 3 puts it in the right but in a box. And then I'm kind of partial to number 4, which puts them on the top. The other thing we can do is we can change the background. So if you like pink, we'll go with pink. Or we could go with steel. That's a nice calm one. All right, we go with that one. And then if that's the background and the colors that we want to use, then we can click Save over on the right, and now that's the background. If at any point in time you want to change that, while you're in view mode, you can customize your style. You can do this. Other people cannot when they're viewing it. You have that control. Okay. So we've looked at adding items using our usual tool panel within Blackboard. And we added a video in 2 different ways. Now and we added artifacts. So now let's take a look at how do we share that portfolio with others. So here's the portfolio I've been working in. And there's this More button over here. And when we click More, we can click Share. And you'll notice that it talks about sharing a snapshot. And when you share a snapshot, and they give us this little information here in the middle page, but I know we don't always see that sometimes, it's really important to understand that this literally is like taking a picture. So you're sharing a picture of what this portfolio looks like at this very moment. Any edits that are made, then another snapshot will need to be shared. So we're going to share a snapshot with users. And this is to share a snapshot with someone within the college. So I see that Jeff Ventrano is on the webinar today. So we're going to share this with Jeff. And I've got his user ID there. I can send him an email to notify him about this. Just by clicking that button, I can add more information to it. I can even copy the message to myself. And then I click Submit. This next page confirms that Jeff now has access to my portfolio. And the way Jeff would find that is he would go to his My Portfolios page and look at ones that have been shared with him. You can see here I have several that have been shared with me. Here is from one of our computer folks. And here is Kim's professional portfolio. And all of these, I can open them and take a look at them. And if I don't need to see them anymore, I can delete them from what's been shared with me. If I delete them and I want them back, I do have to ask the original user to please share it again. So let's go back and look at that share. If I decide that I don't want Jeff to have access to it anymore, I have a couple of choices. I can click on the button and say remove this snapshot, or if I've given it to multiple people, I can remove it from just one person at a time. So I'm going to remove this snapshot, and I'm going to do a different snapshot so you can see how you can remove just one user. So I'm going to share with Jeff, but I'm also going to share with some people in my office. Now, by doing that, I've given access to this portfolio to 3 people in the institution. And I know that the snapshot was taken today at 1:40. If I come back in 3 days, it will say that it was shared at 1:40 p.m. on March 18th. But I decided I don't want Cliff to have access, but I still want Jeff and Aaliyah to have access. If I click here and do Remove Snapshot, I'll lose all 3 of them. But if I just want to take access away from Flip, I can just click on the little trash can and it goes away. Greg asked if I'm using commas to separate the usernames. Yes. In Blackboard we use commas, whereas in our Outlook accounts we have to use semicolons. But yes, it's just a comma. Okay. Now, let's share this snapshot. Let's say that we want to share this snapshot to someone outside of Ivy Tech. That would be an external user. So I'm going to share this to, pretending that I'm an outside person, I'm going to share this to an email account outside of the institution. And I can share it to multiple. There's another of my aliases. And again, separated by a comma. I can edit the email to send. And this will send an email. And when I click submit, see, it didn't like something about my email. I'm not sure why it doesn't like my email. Let's see if it'll take the one, because I know it does multiples. So it didn't believe that my other one was an email. Here we have, now we know that we've sent it to an external user, and when. We've got our internal users still, but now we've got an external URL. This is important because when we click on this, it will open it in another page. But let's take a look at this up here. You'll notice that it goes right to online.ivytech.edu and it ends with title page HTML. But let's look at this link. This is not the same link. If you're going to share this outside of the institution where the person doesn't have access through Blackboard, you need to make sure you use the external URL. Because if you open it and you share this URL, anyone who is outside of the institution will not have access. Even people inside the institution won't, because this is the URL specifically to the access that's been granted. So if you have not granted that person specific access, this URL will come up as an error. So always use the external URL when sharing it. Okay? And then just like with an internal user, if I decide I don't want the external user to have access, I can click on the trash can and the access is removed. And it's instant. That access is completely not available anymore. The last thing that I wanted to show you was how do we add a portfolio assignment to our courses. So I'm going to use the course that I was teaching. Let's do this one. I changed permissions in one of those courses. So here is one of my courses, and I'm going to add a portfolio assignment to my class sessions area. Make sure that my course is in edit mode. And I am going to create an assignment. It's a portfolio, so it's an assignment. So I've got my title. I can write my description, my questions, whatever I want to use to describe the assignment. If I want to attach files, I can do that. I can create due dates. This is looking pretty familiar to those of us who are accustomed to doing this. You do need to add points possible. That is required. Make that a 0, only because this is a live class that I'm working in. I can add rubrics if a rubric's already been created for previous portfolios, or I can create a new rubric. And here's where the magic happens for portfolios, under submission details. And you notice these are some new links that came up to us when we had our upgrade in December. Here's where I select portfolio. And by selecting portfolio submission, and then I can choose the rest of these as I wish, now the student will be able to search for their portfolio that they've created when they click on the link. So there's that assignment link. It's just like any other assignment link, and they can select their portfolio. We're hoping that they're not creating their portfolio at this one time because hopefully they put some time into that. But they can select a portfolio. Since I'm an instructor here, it won't work. But by clicking that select portfolio, it would bring up my page of portfolios and let me choose and then submit it. Just like with a paper assignment that's been created for our students, and we have the ability to view it in that inline grading, you'll be able to page through your student's portfolio inline, and you can make your comments off to the right and add the grades. It's all accessed through the Grade Center, just like if you were grading a paper assignment that was uploaded. So it makes for a really nice interface, very efficient for faculty. We've got a question. Have we always had this capability, or is it a new feature? The capability was out there, but it wasn't turned on because it was a really wonky interface. And with our upgrade in December, we got a much more user-friendly interface, and so the center turned it on for us. So this is really pretty new for us. All right, so those were the items that I wanted to go over, and let's go back and take a look here, clean up some things. Those are the things that I did, the list of the things that I walked you through, and again, you will have access to this. So the last thing here, as we're coming to a close, is it's now your turn. After the last face-to-face workshop that I did here on ePortfolios in the Sellersburg campus, I got this wonderful feedback from one of my nursing instructors. So she talked about the fact that she teaches fundamentals, and then she reflected on the topics that students are expected to engage with during fundamentals. And she explains that nursing is a journey, nursing school is a journey. And she sees that the ePortfolio will be a great way for her nursing students to document this journey and to show their growth throughout their time at Ivy Tech. And then, of course, she says she also wants to start a professional portfolio. So what I really appreciated about that was Judy took the time to share with me how this is going to personally affect her professionally as well as in the classroom. Some of you I know probably already do portfolios, and some of you this may be something new that you're considering for the future. So my challenge to you is to think about how you might use this in your own situation. And I'm going to compile the results that come to me by email over the next couple of days, and I'm going to share those out. That way we can all learn from each other. And I will also provide access to this portfolio so you can see it and you can spend some time with the resources. And we'll also make sure that you get a copy of the archive. So you'll have resources that will be embedded with handouts, videos, and the link to this recording. Are there any other questions? I know I went kind of fast. We could honestly spend all day or even 2 days spending the time with this. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions come up. Really quickly, got one. Okay. Jeff asked, he says, I commented on your portfolio, how does one see the comments made? When we go back to the portfolios area, there's a place to see comments. So under More, you can click View Comments. I hope it was clean, Jeff. That one hasn't come through yet. I'll have to look for it. But that's where it should be. I will check on that because I've had comments show up before by clicking on that More. So that's where it should be, Jeff. Please show us again how to first access the portfolio area. So when you're on the home page of Blackboard, up beside your name is the arrow to open the global navigation panel or menu. And when you open that, your default will be to show your courses. And at the bottom of that is Tools and then Portfolios, and that will take you to the page. Let's see. Sherry asked if I can see her question. I don't see where, let's see. Through the assignment method you just demonstrated, can the student create the portfolio that way also? Yes, Sherry, they can. So they can use that to access to create the portfolio. Thank you for prompting me to find that again. Let's see, email my campus address. Yes, please do. Let me pull that back up for you so that you can see my address. So it's lcousin, no numbers, at ivtech.edu. And I'll make sure that you get that also today. You mentioned a template for the faculty development portfolio. Is that something that can be shared? I can share it to you, but it is something that doesn't copy over. I had created it to show to my faculty as an option, but there is no way to import that particular template at this time. It is very easy to create, though, however. Candace asked if this will be available later. Yes, I'll make sure that you get a copy of this presentation, a copy of the webinar, as well as the handouts. The handouts are going on the help page in our instructor resources area and our student resources area, so that will be available. Marion asked about sharing the portfolio. From the My Portfolios page, that's under More and Share. And that also, I will give you details on how to do that. Okay. I clicked the wrong portfolio. Sorry, Jeff. Let's see. What does the portfolio look like when you download it? Greg, it comes in HTML format. So if we were to download a portfolio, we click this download button, and it's going to create this zip file, and then you just open up the zip file. And so that is one way that students can then leave the campus with their portfolio. Let's see, can you provide this to the students for review? Certainly you can. I have absolutely no qualms with you sharing it with your students and other faculty as you like. Also, I'll be creating some student-centered videos on how they can create these portfolios, and that will show up on the Help tab then inside of all the Blackboard courses. I'll get that to Jeff, and his team will get that uploaded. Okay. Sherry asked about instructions. That will also go on that Help button, but I'll make sure that I get those out to you when I send out those resources. Okay. Can I change snapshot options so that someone can see live what I changed rather than having to reshare? Aaliyah asked that. No. It only will share a snapshot. So if changes are made, we do have to reshare that snapshot. That does make that difference. Okay. Any other questions out there? Do you know when the resources will be available? I want to add it to the current capstone course. It is my goal to work on those tonight and tomorrow and to have that in your hands via email by the end of the day tomorrow. And then as far as getting it loaded to the Help tab in Blackboard, that's something that is going to be dependent on the workload in Jeff's office because he'll be doing that for us. See, how would you compare this to something like WordPress? I think, personally, Susan Manon asked that question. I think WordPress is a little more difficult to work with. That's just been my personal experience. I also like the fact that this keeps everything within our domain, and so students don't have their personal information sitting out on the World Wide Web. It's protected. Okay. Any other questions? If you come up with something later, please do send me an email. This is something that I'm really impassioned about. I think that ePortfolios have a lot of potential for our students, especially to help them see their growth, and as well as for faculty to share their growth with others. Okay, Sherry says that some capstone courses currently require portfolios through Google Sites. Will this method replace that? If this is an online course, and then that is something that's already been embedded into the online course, embedded by the curriculum committee, that will take discussion within the committee to change. I think that this tool being available now this semester should prompt some of those discussions within the curriculum committees. And I like the fact, as I said before, that this stays within the Ivy Tech domain, and so it keeps students' information private. It does make it a little bit more difficult to share it outside the institution. They have to download it, and then once they eventually lose their access to Blackboard after graduation, you know, they would need to download it and take it with them. But at that point, they're going to be growing and have a different need and different focus of their ePortfolios. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, well, it looks like we've gotten through them. As I said, if you think of any more, please do ask. And I look forward to hearing your ideas on how you are currently using portfolios and how you might find that this would work for you professionally or for your students. Thank you.